shopping with POL at performanceonline.com. After discovering our 50-year-old lower ball joints were worn out on our 1970 Plymouth Barracuda, we decided to replace and upgrade a few of our suspension components with a new kit from POL. Today we'll show you how to replace your lower ball joints, idler arm, as well as your inner and outer tie rods with POL's new and improved adjusting sleeves. You will need a jack and jack stands, pickle fork, sledgehammer, flathead screwdriver, wire cutters, grease, and the following wrenches. Break your lug nuts free. Use your jack and jack stands to get the front tires off the ground. Remember, on these vehicles, the driver's side lug nuts have left-hand threads, and they loosen and tighten in the opposite direction that you're used to. Remove your grease cap and use a rag to wipe away the grease. Remove the cotter pin. Remove the sleeve from the nut. Clean up and remove the nut.
Pull it off a little bit, make sure you hold that, otherwise it's, chances are it's going to hit the floor.
While apart, use this opportunity to examine the bearing and the race that it sits in. Remove the cotter pin from the lower ball joint and loosen the nut with a 7/8 wrench. Do not remove it completely.
If you leave the nut on there and just back it off a little bit, you see how much clearance we have in there? That's as far as anything's going to drop.
Remove the cotter pin and loosen the nut connecting the lower ball joint from the outer tie rod using a 3/4 inch wrench. Do not remove the nut completely. Use a pickle fork and sledgehammer and break the ball joint free. Remove the cotter pins and use two 15/16 inch wrenches and remove these bolts.
Now you can see that we've got plenty of room to that, and you can see how wore out that thing is.
Use your pickle fork to get your lower ball joint to break free and remove it completely.
Again, shouldn't have play like that, so.
We've gone ahead and clear coated our new lower ball joints to preserve the factory look while protecting from rust. Set your new lower ball joint into place, finger tighten the nut, and bring your drum back down.
Reusing these original ones, you see how rusty the threads are in there. So I'm just going to take them across the wire wheel and clean them up really quick. That way it shouldn't give us any problems, with putting our castle nuts back on it. If you're wearing safety glasses, these pieces of the wire wheel will come out and they'll get you.
Send your bolts back through.
A pretty important component to the vehicle, so you want to try to get it as tight as you can.
Use both of your 15/16 wrenches to tighten the bolts that connect your drum to your lower ball joint. Insert your cotter pins, bend, and trim. Use a 7/8 wrench to tighten your castle nut on your lower ball joint. Apply your cotter pin, bend, trim.
Now what we're going to be replacing is our inner and outer tie rods, the idler arm here.
Remove the cotter pins from the nuts connecting your inner tie rods to your center link. Loosen the nuts, but do not remove completely. You just want to give enough space to break the ball joints free. All 4 nuts connected to your center link should now be loose. Use your pickle fork to break the ball joints free and remove your inner and outer tie rods. Disconnect the center link from your idler arm. Use a 7/8 and 13/16 wrench to remove the old idler arm. Thread your Zerk fittings into your new idler arm with a 5/16 inch wrench.
If it's fighting you too much, and you don't want to, feels like it might snap on you, you don't have to butt it down in there, because the last thing you want to do is break that Zerk fitting, then there's no greasing it. As long as the majority of it's in there, grease, when you go to grease it, isn't coming out the sides of it or anything like that, it's perfectly good.
Place the washer underneath the idler arm and walk it into place. You may need the assistance of a screwdriver to help you line it up. Using a 7/8 and 13/16 wrench, install your new idler arm.
With this exhaust that's on here with the factory exhaust manifolds, my wrench lays across it, so I'm just going to leave that there to use that so I can get both hands on the ratchet.
Now you can reattach your center link and finger tighten the nut back on. POL's high-performance tie rod adjusting sleeves are made in the USA and a great way to improve the strength of your steering system. Precise adjustments can be made easily, and the double jam nut design ensures there will be no movement in alignment settings.
Okay, in the middle of that Zerk fitting and to the middle of the Zerk fitting here, I'm at 12 1/4. Again, something that I'll let you know right now, these are a left and a right hand thread. So, you can twist it like that, it'll adjust it out, adjust it in. You want to make sure that when you're putting these things in, either to this sleeve here, or the new adjuster sleeve that we started making, that there's an even amount of threads on each side. Because you can't have this one out here and this one all the way in. You don't want that. You want to have them evenly, so that way when they back out, it's evenly spread apart. Again, center of that Zerk fitting. You got to go out a little bit more. Check that there. A little bit more on that. Okay, we're basically where we want to be at 12 1/4. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these down.
Install your new outer and inner tie rods. Tighten your nuts down and apply your cotter pins. Now it's time to grease all of your Zerk fittings.
And you can grab it and squeeze on it. Like right now, you feel there's quite a bit of grease in there. But as you pump on it, you can watch that thing start to balloon up on you. And we have some that's coming out of the side over there. So we know we're packed full of grease.
Your suspension upgrade is complete. At this point, you will need an alignment.
This is the old school way of packing bearings. Just load up some grease in the palm of your hand and sit there and just pack it in. And then it'll start pushing up out of the top like that, once it's worked itself all the way through. Okay, and then you can just take that extra. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it, right? Okay, now we're ready. I already put a little bit in here on the race, but that's also why you coat the outside of it. And just push it into place like that.
Tighten the spindle nut to 12 foot-pounds while spinning the drums, or rotors if you have disc brakes. Then back the nut off to the nearest slot on your castle nut, aligning the hole in the spindle to install your cotter pin. Applying even pressure, reinstall your grease cap.
So at this point, we've replaced our inner and outer tie rod ends. We've got our new adjuster sleeve on there. We've got our new idler arm, and we've got our new lower ball joint. Basically, your next step would be putting the tire back on and taking it down to get it aligned. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Tighten your lug nuts to 85 foot-pounds and enjoy your upgraded suspension components. Thank you for shopping with POL at PerformanceOnline.com. Subscribe to our channel for more how-tos, featured customer rides, event coverage, and more. That's POL at PerformanceOnline.com.